Kia ora, good evening, and welcome to episode 88 of the Huddy Hui. And we're looking forward to round 13 of the Swindale Shield. It was great having Sam Clark on last night, the Parramatta Plimerton first five. What a riveting interview that was as they prepare for their Swindale final against Old Boys University this Saturday. And the man in the middle, the referee, not only has the luxury of this Swindale final, he's also bringing up a personal milestone this Saturday, 100 Premier Games. Hamish Mexted is our guest on the Huddy Hui tonight. Hamish, congratulations on your approaching 100 Premier Games. How's your week been?
Hey, thanks, Brad. Firstly, thanks for having me. It's been a massive week, just with the congratulations I've had, but they're also leading into a massive game at Swindale. It's exciting.
And what's your thoughts on the two teams? We were talking off air that you watched a bit of their games from the weekend. What's your thoughts on these two teams? And have you refereed them at all this season?
I've refereed both teams this season, yes. I had Parramatta Plym against the team I can't remember. So that's Wainui Amata. So that for Parramatta Plym, obviously, and had OBU up against Norths earlier on. So, but both teams are strong. OBU are always there or thereabouts. And Parramatta Plimerton are obviously the surprise package, them and Upper Hutt earlier on in the season. And, you see Upper Hutt drop away and you kind of wonder when it was Parramatta's turn, but it just hasn't happened. They kept on trucking. Well,
they've only lost the one game in round one against Upper Hutt, and since then they've gone on to win big games, but also win close games, particularly against Johnsonville. As a referee, when you see these two sides, what are their strengths and weaknesses that you can see?
Oh, God, I'm not going to give each team their own game plans to execute on.
I thought that's very diplomatic of you. Now, of course...
I thought it was beautiful dodge. It's better than my sidestep, put it that way.
Oh, that's right. Now, of course, as the Premier referee, you're quite lucky to get your team referee. Tell us about your team referee and how important they are for you this Saturday.
Oh, so I've got a heck of a team of three this weekend. So I've got Zinny McCormick, who carries the thickest Scottish accent you'll ever come across. So I've given him really clear instructions to speak slowly to me.
Universal translator might come in handy.
And then on the other side, we've got Jack Sargentina, who's obviously had his fair share of success over the last few years, refereeing the last couple of Jubilee finals as well. So he's a hell of a referee.
Until 2022, you had a decade out of the game. Why was that?
Oh, work got busy, so I'm self-employed. So sort of building my own business took a bit of time, and that needed some focus. We've got 3 kids as well, so we've got twin boys who are 8 and our daughter who's 7. So 3 kids under 16 months was a little bit full on, and sort of needed to have a bit of focus at home for a while. But now that they're a bit older and work's a bit more stable, it's awesome to be back into footy again. Love it.
You're a trained accountant, and you started your own business in 2011. Tell us about that business and how important it is for you to start up a business and make it flourish.
I mean, it's huge. I love it. I love the people I work with. I love our customers. So yeah, we're an accounting firm, and we've got nudging 20 staff now. So it's gone good. But our team at work do a great job every day, and it frees me to have time off to do footy and do this sort of thing. So it's good. And look, there's a lot of crossovers between the work I do and refereeing as well. So you learn from one and put it into the other, and vice versa.
The pillar of management, as you mentioned there, is quite an important one that you take from the business world onto the field. How do you deal with a difficult captain?
There's a fair bit of conflict resolution each Saturday afternoon. So you sort of take those skills and bring them onto footy. But equally, there's stuff you learn with people management at work. And I think with refereeing, right, we get seen a lot when we blow the whistle or we flash a card or we make the calls. But often it's the little stuff we do that goes unnoticed because it stops the penalty or stops the card. And that's the stuff that you learn at work and can bring into footy.
You also do a lot of business coaching. Talk us through that, because you have your own sort of business coaching profile.
Oh, mate, you're giving me free advertising, so this is beautiful. Thank you, firstly.
Brilliant.
So if anyone needs business coaching out there, so yeah, we do a lot of business coaching, and basically, yeah, we've gone from kind of me on my own out the back of the car, and you learn some stuff along the way, and you kind of get to share that with other people, other business owners, to help them get ahead quicker, because the stuff that pushes one business ahead is the same thing that'll push someone else.
Now, this year, you've joined the Wellington Rugby Football Union Board of Directors. What is your role on the board, and how have you found it so far?
So my role on the board, obviously, is finance. And so I've come in specifically to kind of focus on the dollars to make them work, because look, it's no secret that the finances have been tricky, and it's an organisation with a lot of history and a lot of strength to it. So it's just looking at it, going, how do we pull those strengths out to make the organisation as sustainable as it can be. But it's just a privilege, right, to be on that board and to see the work that goes on behind the scenes, because more often than not, it kind of goes unnoticed, and there's a massive amount of mahi that people put in. So it's just a privilege to be around the table and to kind of shape the direction of Wellington Rugby.
Besides the finances, what are some of the other challenges that our game is facing here in the capital city?
Oh, look, again, player numbers, there's no secret in that, have had a bit of a problem around them, and COVID obviously hasn't helped that. So it's just going, how do we keep people engaged in our game? Because every club's got its kind of stalwarts who are massively passionate about their club and want to see more and more players come in. And some clubs have done that really well. So it's just going, well, how's that club done it, and how do we share that experience with other people? But there's a great team at the Rugby Union who do some good work. So it'll come.
When did your refereeing career begin, and why did you take up the whistle?
So I was a hopeless player.
Join the club.
Some would say referee as well. And my dad got sick of me. I'm yelling at the TV weekend after weekend, because we're a rugby house. So I'd be screaming the whole way through every NPC game or Super Rugby game. And Dad goes, would you just shut up or go and do it? And he knows me quite well, so he knew exactly what button to push, and I think he pushed it, and the rest is history. So that was 2002 when I picked up the whistle for the first time.
And what was your first game in 2002?
First game, it was a massive battle. It was an under 55 kilogram, third, fourth grading game between, who was it? It was Upper Hutt College, Newlands College, up at Upper Hutt College.
Oh, tough.
Well, you thought it was, right? Yeah. You go on to some things after it. But, the challenges you had back then are the same challenges you have now, just with a different scale and kind of complexity around them.
The product of Hutt International Boys School. Tell us about rugby there when you were a student, because at the moment, rugby tends to be flourishing at your old school. Oh,
look, let's be honest, rugby wasn't, actually sport wasn't really a strength back then. We had an exceptional first 11 cricket team. And that was about it. So by the time I left, the soccer team got a bit better, but it was a cricket school, and that was about it. But now, they've turned around, probably coinciding with me leaving.
In 2004, you made your premier debut. Who were the teams, and how did you enjoy it?
So that was Oriental Rongotai against Johnsonville. And there was a player, the number 10 for Jayville, Corey Burt. And we're going back into the archives here, right? Because this is, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And he had me on a string. So he worked out what I was going to call, what I wasn't going to call, and that got them up 36-14. But game one, you're always going to learn a lot. So it was a hell of an experience. And I was only 2 years into my refereeing journey at that point, so I was pretty green. And these old wily players knew a damn sight more than I did.
So when you referee Premier Rugby, what's different from the other grades of rugby that you've done? What's the transition like?
If you look at the speed and pace of Colts rugby is quicker often than a lot of the other senior grades. But then you go to a Prem Reserve grade, and you've got a lot of kind of gnarlier players who know the ins and outs and dark arts of rugby. So you sort of got the pace of Colts with the gnarliness of Premier Reserve, and all sort of stepped up a level. So you've got to bring both your technical refereeing ability as well as your man management, which makes it a really nice challenge.
And are you expert in translating scrum calls into the front rows, some of their unique language?
Oh. I don't know, if you ask Connor Lemon from a game last weekend, he'd probably argue that I don't know a scrum call if it hit me in the face.
Well, we had him on last week, so he's always got a quick, sharp old Connor. Now, of course...
look, you just look at it and you go, as a referee, there's pitches we want to see from a front rower. So we want them square, we want them straight, and we want them pushing through. So if you see those pitches, that's what I'm looking for. And if you see something that doesn't match, well, you deal with it.
2013, you were appointed to the Jubilee Cup final at the Hutt Recreational Ground. The All Blacks were going to play there a few weeks later, so there was temporary seating erected around the grounds. Tell us about that experience, and what's that the pinnacle of your career?
I mean, if you look at the prestige around the game, unquestionably the pinnacle. But I'm as excited this weekend as I was for a Jubilee Cup final. I was as excited for my first Premier game after my comeback, after my little sabbatical that I had, as I was for the Jubilee Cup final. But the speed of the game, the intensity, the atmosphere, the pressure that was on the line was something else, and that's what you don't get from a run-of-the-mill game of footy. But I think the Hutt Rec, full of people with the temporary seating all around it, was something else. It was really, really special.
Is there anything you change when you went into that final in terms of your build-up? Was there stuff that you took more seriously, or did you just stick to the status quo?
The excitement's there, and you can't hide from it. You've got to go, the pressure is on, and I feel excited, and I'm pumped for the game. And you can't kind of kid yourself into going, I'm going to relax, and I'm not going to feel it, because it just doesn't work, right? So you've got to kind of embrace it and get into it until 15 minutes before kickoff. And then it kind of flicks to game mode, and away you go.
Now, you're one of the few that's been able to represent a New Zealand referee squad, and you're a former member of that squad. How was your experience?
Oh, correct. I wanted to be a member of it. I never quite made it.
I never quite made it? Oh, okay.
I'll take the compliment on the promotion.
Yeah. How many games did you do at provincial level, and to what level?
Yeah, so I mean, I did do a lot of sort of B rugby. So there used to be a really strong B competition between basically all of the NPC provinces. So I did the final of that competition, Wellington B, Auckland B, out at Huddy Park. Did a couple of Heartland pre-season games. I was lucky to do a game between East Coast Ngāti Porou against Poverty Bay up at Whakaroa Park in Ruatoria. And man, that was something else.
It's a unique ground.
Whole experience. Yeah. Oh, it's a unique place, right? Yeah. You rock on up and there's literally the horses at the gate. Got breath tested on the way to the game. So this would have been 10:30 in the morning. The officer that pulled me over, she ended up being the assistant referee for the game.
Oh, brilliant.
And got it. In a place like that, there's some characters. So it was a hell of a weekend.
Was the horse still in the field before kickoff, mowing the lawns?
It was moved off shortly before the game.
Now, of course, Heartland rugby is pretty much what was true rural rugby in that time. How's it different from city rugby?
Yeah, and as a referee, right, we're lucky to go on interchanges around the country. So you sort of get to go all over the place and experience it. And it tends to be slower and tighter, and the skill level isn't always what it could be. But it's just different. It's not better or worse. It's different in the same way as saying you go down to Canterbury and the rugby down there is different to the rugby in Wellington. Their rugby's a lot quicker and more open. Does that make it better because the breakdown isn't as contested? I don't know. It's just different. So,
have you had the opportunity to referee overseas?
Yes, I've been really lucky. I've got to go to Japan a couple of times. So I've been over there twice. Hong Kong Sevens, Hong Kong Tens. So I've definitely, refereeing's been good to me. It's given me some heck of an opportunity.
And how is
So,
the Japan
you go to,
scene? Oh, sorry.
oh, no, that's right. So Japan so I went there twice. First was for their kind of their summer camps, so all their preseason footy, and they've got a ski field, a ski resort they go to, and every chairlift at the top has a rugby field, and everyone down the bottom has a rugby field. So there must be 50 odd rugby fields in this little village, and they pack it out with teams from all over the country. So that was amazing. I was there predominantly for their college footy. And then the next time I went back was for the university tournament. So did a couple of top league B games, and then had Waseda University against Meiji University, which are their two kind of main city clubs, playing at the Olympic Stadium in Tokyo with 30,000 screaming fans. So again, that was just these experiences, right, that you don't get without being in the middle. So I've been truly lucky. You go to a place like Hong Kong, refereeing Hong Kong Tens with Joe Roff, Toda Kefu, Brendan Laney, like just exceptional players who know the game inside out.
What were some of the key takeaways from your time refereeing at sort of provincial and B level in New Zealand?
I mean, so for me, when I was doing that level, I never got to where I wanted to be. So you take away a level of resilience and dealing with the knocks of being selected or not being selected for squads. And look, refereeing is no different to playing in that respect. You either make a squad or you don't, and you have to live with it. But equally, I think I put too much pressure on myself at the time and had to make it at that point in my life. And shit, I was only 26, something like that. So I could have hung around and knocked on those doors longer. But yeah, you make choices you make at the time, right? And you have other stuff going on in life. Like I said, I had work and the kids and all that sort of stuff. So you can't do everything.
Who have been some of the key influences in your development as a referee?
I mean, so there's a lot of guys in refereeing who are behind the scenes and they just never get the limelight. Like my first year refereeing coach was a guy called Andrew Rogers. I don't even know if he's still around. And he just put the work into us, So for me to go from a first year referee to Premier Footy in the space of 2 and a bit years is simply down to him. Yeah, then I had another coach, a guy called Graham Templeton as well, who just plowed hours and hours into me and would go around the country with me, trying to coach me to be a better referee. And every referee has that. So for everyone of us out in the middle each weekend, there's a whole lot of coaches standing behind us who we just couldn't have the success we have without them.
So you stepped back into rugby last year, into Premier Rugby, after nearly a decade out. How do you find it refereeing Premier Rugby now compared to when you stopped a decade ago?
It's different, and that's just a reflection on the world being different, right? Like you roll back to when I was refereeing first time round, and there were guys like Rob Turuwhenua from Porneke or Jed Robinson, Eugene Smith, Chris Middleton. Like there's all these guys that have been around the traps for a bloody long amount of time. And there's still guys like that around now in each club, but there aren't quite as many of them. So the old heads that knew exactly how to work a referee just aren't around like they used to be. So the pressure in that respect is lower. But you roll back before and you couldn't watch a game unless you were there. There were no video recordings of them. So you're under a lot more scrutiny at the same time now than we used to be. So there's pros and cons.
And of course, the advancement in video
decision you make on Facebook.
Yeah. Now, the advancements in video technology and analysis, particularly at club rugby, how has that changed for you as a referee, reviewing your games and preparing?
Yeah, I mean, you get better pitches. So I was talking about my scrum pitches before where you want them square. So you can look at it, you go, I can watch every scrum from a team's game last weekend and understand what props are doing and start to look at what I want to see. Equally, the same true for breakdown, all that kind of stuff. So So you get more clarity on what you're looking for. And I think as a premier group of referees, we're getting more consistency between us as well, which I think is paying off now. Because you look at the tries that have been scored in Wellington Club Rugby, I think there's more this year than there would have been for decades. And I think that's because we're getting really good space.
What's the toughest game of rugby you have refereed?
Oh. I mean, look, at Jubilee Cup final's tough because of the pressure that's on it. But equally, there used to be, I don't know if it's still around, the Swindale Shield, which was played for between the OBU reserve grade teams. And they used to have 5 or 6 of them. And they were always a shit fight, those games. They kill each other. So they were brilliant games of rugby. And the same is true for McBain Shield. The events and the occasions kind of create something. I think there's games that have been tough because they kind of stick in my mind where I balls them up. And we've all got a couple of those games. But there's a bunch of them.
You've refereed a number of characters in club rugby. Who are some of the best, worst, or funniest to deal with?
I mean, Connor Lemon had a stand-up routine last weekend. I thought he was good. But you go back and you go, like the Moananu brothers from Poneke were always good to referee. They'd always get stuck into you, but they could always kind of step back and have a laugh as well. Same for Eugene Smith from Tony, right? Like a guy that knew the law inside and out and would sure as shit tell you if you got it wrong. But he's doing his job for his team, and then equally could kind of smile and nod when he tried one on and didn't get it past you.
Yep.
Or a guy like Tui Hunt predominantly from Upper Hutt when I was refereeing him. He was just always so gentle and was just a nice man. And I think every kind of club has them. They've got them on the field, they've got them off on the sidelines, so it's good.
What advice would you give to a young referee wanting to aim to referee Premier level?
Just relax. Like the more uptight we are as referees going into a game, the quicker we are to blow the whistle, the quicker we are to get the wrong outcome. So if you just take a breath, you do it slowly, then you've got more time, you're going to make a better decision. And you're not going to put yourself under the pressure because God knows the players put us under enough, right? So if we're dumping more on top of ourselves along the way, it kind of doesn't help.
If World Rugby gave you a chance to change a law in the game, what would it be?
Nothing. Nothing at all. And here's the thing, right? Like, we've tinkered with laws so much. Like, I was refereeing once when we had free kicks for everything. So every breakdown instead of a penalty, we'd have a free kick. Like, we've tried everything under the sun to make the game quicker and to create more space and to blah, 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 blah. But if you want a game that's simple and we all know what the rules are, go and play league.
Yeah.
Like, the beauty of rugby is that it is a bit murky at times and there's a lot of art to it and it's not black and white. So, we could look at it and go, let's stop teams kicking the ball out into touch at penalties to reduce the number of mauls in the game. But we could do that. But then players are just going to find other ways to play the game of footy. And then we'll end up changing the rules in response to that. So, I don't know. The game's the game. Let's just play it and get on with it.
The last time I saw you referee was Batoni against Wainui in the mud bath. Now, Khan Green.
I still haven't got that mud out of my jersey.
Now, Khan Green said something to you, and he actually brought you a beer after the game. What happened?
So, I can't quite remember how it happened, but he must have said to the ball carrier carrying the ball on, if you're quicker next time or you bring me a drink, I'll give you $10 or something like that. So I said, Khan, if you get this over, I'll give you $10. And he looks at me and goes, not $10, but how about a pint? And I said, good on. Okay, here we go. So he aims up and he shanks it to the left, and I thought, that's a pint. Thank you.
And you weren't expecting it too in the club rooms. Next week, appeared in your face.
Well, you never quite know. But credit to him, he turned up with a pint, so I appreciated it.
Now, what's the plans for after your game on Saturday? What has been prepared to celebrate your 100th game?
We'll go down to the Cambridge, as is tradition, to go to the aftermatch. So we'll have a couple of pints down there, no doubt. And then as a group of referees, so we're all heading to a bar downtown after that 6 o'clock to kind of just come together, because as much as it's about my milestone getting to 100, it's also about the association and just a really good excuse to kind of bring everyone together, because we're spread across Wellington every weekend, so we don't get the chance to do it all the time. So it'll be nice to catch up with everyone.
Hamish, it's been fantastic having on the Hui tonight. All the best for your achievement on Saturday. Go well.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's lucky to be here. So thanks again, and everyone enjoy the footy on the weekend.
That is Hamish Mexted bringing up his 100th game in Premier Rugby this Saturday, and he has got the great opportunity to referee what has pretty much been dubbed the Swindale final. And whoever in Wellington Rugby put this draw together must have been some soothsaying stuff going on, because it's going to be an absolute cracker of a last round. So round 13, the last round of Swindale Shield. Let's look at the matchups, because there are some rather interesting games on board here. Huddy Hui Maris play host to Avalon, 9 versus 13. Now, Hutt have to win with a bonus point and result for certain results in the other games to go their way. There's a possibility, even if they do have a big win, they could still miss out on the top 8. This is how close this middle section of the table is. Maris St. Pat's host Batoni. Maris St. Pat's a narrow win over Wainui last weekend. Batoni, well, they'll be hurting after losing to Parramatta Plymouton last week from being 19 all at half-time. They're losing 53 points to 24. So that's 5th versus 6. Now, in particular, Batoni, they probably are safe, but for Maris St. Pat's, a win is vital for them here, just to keep them safe in the top 8. Oriental Rongotai versus Upper Hutt. Upper Hutt beating Old Boys University last week allowed Old Boys University to sneak in 2 late tries to get a bonus point to set up the final round. Oriental Rongotai, a good win last week against Porneki, but one would say they have to win at the Polo Ground this Saturday to keep them in the top 8. That game there is going to be very important, in particular for Oris. If they win, they're more than likely in. So that result could go any way. Porneki play host to Wellington, and it's also a premier referee debut for Jack Travella. So congratulations, Jack. It's being long overdue in the waiting debut at Premier Rugby. Wainuiamata play host to Johnsonville, 11 versus 3 on the table. Johnsonville on fire, and a win here, well, just guarantees them top 4, and potentially they could actually get a home playoff next week in the second round. Tawa versus Norths. Now, a big rivalry, this one, out there in Porirua and Tawa. Now, Tawa go in as heavy favourites. Now, for them, a win is vital too. They must win and secure that top 8 place, because they also could be potentially in a little bit of a pickle. They should beat Norths. Norths finding it tough this season, but they always step up for this game. Now, of course, the big game this weekend, Old Boys University play host to the on-fire Parramatta Plymouton side. Hamish Mexted refereeing that game. 1 versus 2. Parramatta, they could lose and still win it, but they'll be looking to win this outright. And what scenes it will be out there at Rugby League Park. Old Boys University missing Callum Harkin and Jan Lummers out there. Are both broken wrists, so it's a bit of a shame. We said that to Sam Clark last night. It'll be a little bit different without having to go up against Callum Harkin. That would have been a good battle But Old Boys University, they've shown grit and determination. But Parramatta Plympton, if they keep the show rolling, they'll take home the Swindale Shield. And that's my prediction for this sad day. Also, it's round 6 of the first 15 competition. Now, last night we mentioned Silverstream had a 28 points to 12 win over Rongotai. These are the remaining games this sad day. Wairarapa College play host to Scots at 1 p.m. Now, Wairarapa, they've been to St. Pat's Town and also Wellington College over there. Scots should be too good, but anything can happen over there in the Wairarapa, as we've found out the last 2 home games. Wellington College play host to St. Bernard's. That's also at 1 o'clock. Hibs play Mana at NZCIS at 2 p.m. And Tawa versus St. Pat's Town at 2:30 p.m. They are the games in secondary school first 15 rugby this Saturday. Well, that is the Huddy Hui for tonight. Next Wednesday, we'll be back. It's going to be the preview for the second round, start of the Jubilee and Hardham Cup sections. There's only roughly 5 to 4 weeks to go of club rugby. How fast it's gone. And it's going to be a thrilling finish indeed. And also, we might do a bit of a preview for a particular PlayStation 1 competition that I have signed up for. It's about John Lomu rugby. And I've already predicted to be the horse's ass, the wooden spoon. But we might talk about that next Wednesday and see why I've been predicted that way. I think you might find out pretty easy. Also, just before we finish, you probably noticed last night and tonight, sporting a new jersey. This is many thanks to Paul Lafer from Dynasty Sports, also a diehard Parramatta Plympton supporter, supplied myself and the cameraman, Dan Hicks, with some fantastic Dynasty Sport gear. And it's he's done a sterling job. Hoodies, T-shirts, a jacket. Fantastic, Paul. Great to have you on board. We might have to open a Huddy Sports merch store. Could be quite interesting. So that's the Huddy Hui for tonight. All the best for this weekend. Ciao for now.